Hello and welcome back to World History Explored. Today, we are venturing into the heart of Central Europe to unfold the rich and diverse history of Slovakia. This nation has a remarkable tale that intertwines with various powerful empires and iconic historical events. From its early Slavic roots, through the times of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, to its peaceful existence as part of Czechoslovakia and finally its blossoming as an independent country. Each era has left an indelible mark on the Slovakian landscape and culture. As we unravel the historical tapestry of Slovakia, you will discover the resilient spirit and the unique identity that has evolved over centuries. I invite you to watch this video in its entirety to delve deep into the compelling history of this great nation. So sit back, relax, and let's journey through time exploring the captivating history of Slovakia together. The etymology of Slovakia. The name, Slovakia, denotes land of the Slavs, originating from the Slovak word, Slovensko, derived from an older form, Sloven, Slovenen, sharing etymological roots with Slovenia and Slavonia. The transition to the term, Slovak, for identifying male members of the community emerged between the 13th and 14th centuries, possibly due to foreign influence, as seen in medieval sources from 1291 onwards. While the term evolved, other related identifiers like Slovenka, female, Slovensko, land, and Slovencina, language, maintained their original forms. In medieval Latin and German sources, various terms like Slavitz, Slavonia, and Windenland were used to refer to Slovak lands. The term, Slovakia, started appearing in German texts in the 16th century, with the modern Slovak form, Slovensko, first documented in 1675. Prehistory. Slovakia's tale begins from the Paleolithic era with notable discoveries like the Venus of Moravani dating to around 22,800 BCE. As we move into the Neolithic period, we uncover evidence of growing communities showcasing their craftsmanship through finely modeled pottery. The Bronze Age brings forth a flourishing culture, driven by the thriving copper production in regions like central Slovakia, eventually leading to strong trade networks. These networks and cultural exchanges continue to evolve into the Iron Age, with Slovakia finding itself amidst the dynamic interplay of Celtic, Thracian, and later, Roman influences. A significant turn comes with the Roman era around 6 CE, bringing with it clashes and the fleeting establishment of a barbarian kingdom under the Quadi tribe. Yet, it's the great invasions from 4th to 8th centuries CE, marking the movement of tribes like the Huns, Lombards, and Avars across this terrain that significantly shape the region's narrative, laying the groundwork for the medieval period that follows. Antiquity. The first known inhabitants of modern-day Slovakia were the Celts, as evidenced by historical records. Around 400 BC, the initial Celtic groups migrated from the west. They established settlements in the lowlands along the Danube River and its tributaries, as seen in the findings related to the La Tène culture. As the Celts settled, the local population was either subjugated or retreated to the northern mountainous regions. In the 2nd century BC, additional Celtic groups arrived from northern Italy, initially dwelling in small huts that either formed modest villages or were dispersed across the countryside. Some small hill forts constructed in the 1st century BC evolved into significant local economic and administrative hubs. For instance, Zemplín became a hub for iron working, Liptovská Mara had glassworks, and Bratislava and Liptovská Mara were known for local coin minting. Coins from Bratislava bore inscriptions like Biatek and Nanos. Furthermore, the fort at Liptovská Mara became a significant center for the Puchov culture's bear cult of the northern Carpathians. Around 60 BC, Burebista, the Dacian king, invaded the middle Danube region and subjugated most of the local Celtic tribes like the Boii and the Taurishi. However, his empire crumbled about 16 years post his demise. Archaeological excavations have revealed Dacian artifacts, indicating their settlement amidst the local Celts near the rivers Bodrog, Hron, and Nitra. Concurrently, the northward expansion of the Puchov culture, associated with the Celtic Cotini, began. By the last decade of the 1st century BC, the Romans and Germanic tribes commenced their first invasions against the territories along the middle Danube. In 6 AD, under Tiberius's command, Roman legions crossed the Danube near Bratislava to combat the Germanic Quadi. However, a rebellion in Pannonia forced a Roman retreat. In 21 AD, capitalizing on internal discord, the Romans settled a group of Quadi along the Danube, crowning Vannius as their king. Unlike the Celts, the Germans lived in rectangular houses and practiced cremation, placing the ashes in urns. The Danube acted as a frontier between the Roman Empire and the Barbaricum, yet small Roman outposts emerged along its left bank, like at Isa and Devon. During this period, Germanic tribes expanded northward along the rivers Hron, Ipel, and Nitra. Between 160 and 180 AD, during the Marcomannic Wars, Roman legions crossed the Danube multiple times. Notably, Emperor Marcus Aurelius began writing his meditations during a 172 AD campaign against the Quadi near the Hron River. In a significant event in 173 AD, a rainstorm, known as the Miracle of the Rain, saved a beleaguered Roman army, a miracle attributed to a Christian soldier's prayer. The last Roman crossing of the Danube occurred in 374 AD, during Emperor Valentinian I's campaign against the allied Quadi and Sarmatians, who had invaded Roman Pannonia. Medieval history. In the declining years of the Roman Empire during the 4th century AD, escalating incursions by neighboring tribes led to a gradual disintegration of its frontiers, particularly along the Danube. The burgeoning Hunnic Empire in the Eurasian steppes compelled numerous Germanic tribes like the Quadi and Vandals to vacate their ancestral lands by the Middle Danube and Tisa River. They were substituted by tribes such as the Heruli and Suri, but by the 5th century, the Huns, under Attila, dominated the region, subjugating these Germanic tribes. However, after Attila's demise in 453, and subsequent disputes among his heirs, the empire crumbled, enabling the Germanic tribes to reclaim their independence or migrate elsewhere. Archaeological excavations from this period reveal a significant amount of weaponry and other artifacts, indicating a close interaction with regions like the Frankish Empire and Scandinavia. Around the 5th and 6th centuries, Slavic tribes began settling in parts of what is now Slovakia, although concrete records from these tribes before the late 9th century are scarce. The earliest theories suggest their presence in the region as early as the 4th century, supported by interpretations of Byzantine historical accounts from the 6th century, although there's scholarly dispute around certain terminologies and their origins. The settlement patterns show a gradual evolution, with semi-sunken huts becoming characteristic of the Prague-Korchak cultural horizon, associated with early Slavic expansion. As the Germanic Lombards advanced towards the Middle Danube in the early 6th century, archaeological evidence suggests that they largely bypassed Slovakia, with the exception of its northwestern part. There was a natural boundary between the Lombards and the local Slavs, which both parties respected, avoiding major conflicts but engaging in distant expeditions, like raids against the Byzantine Empire. By the 7th century, the arrival of the nomadic Avars in the Carpathian Basin led to a new era of domination and cultural exchange. They subjugated the local Slavs and launched raids across neighboring regions. Over time, the Slavic population increased, partly due to migration from other areas under Avar pressure, and their dialects showcased a blend of influences, separating them from other Slavic and Germanic tribes. Further into the 7th and 8th centuries, the dynamics between the Avars and the Slavs evolved, with the Slavs even rebelling against Avar rule. The eventual collapse of the Avar Khaganate after a series of wars with the Franks around 788,803 AD marked a shift in power dynamics. The Slavs, increasing their military capabilities and fortifying their settlements, began to assert more control over their territory, setting the stage for the emergence of distinct political entities like the Principality of Nitra, which played a role in the formation of the larger entity known as Great Moravia. The chronicles from this era, notably the Conversio Bagoriorum et Carantinorum, recount the interactions between the Moravians and Pribina, a leader expelled to the March of Pannonia under the Carolingian Empire. Great Moravia emerged around the periphery of the Avar territory, gaining prominence around 830 AD under the rule of Momir I, who unified various Slavic tribes situated north of the Danube, asserting Moravian dominance over them. Momir I's ambitions of independence from the East Francian king's rule in 846 were thwarted by King Louis the German, who then aided Mojimir's nephew, Rastislav, in ascending to the throne from 846 to 870. Rastislav aimed for a sovereign path, fending off a Frankish assault in 855 and attempting to diminish the influence of Frankish clergy in his domain. Seeking religious instruction in the Slavic tongue, he appealed to Byzantine Emperor Michael III, who sent the scholarly and missionary duo, Saints Cyril and Methodius, in 863. Cyril's creation of the first Slavic alphabet and his translation of the Gospel into Old Church Slavonic were monumental strides. Rastislav's tenure also saw the construction of numerous fortresses bolstering state security and administration, some of which, like Devon Castle, were explicitly associated with him in Frankish records. During this period, Rastislav entrusted the Principality of Nitra to his nephew Svatopluk as an appanage. However, Svatopluk allied with the Franks, eventually overthrowing his uncle in 870. As king, Svatopluk I, 871–894, led Great Moravia to its zenith, expanding its reach across present-day Moravia, Slovakia, northern and central Hungary, Lower Austria, Bohemia, Silesia, Lusatia, southern Poland, and northern Serbia, though the precise boundaries remain a topic of modern scholarly debate. Despite challenges from Hungarian tribes and the Bulgarian Empire, Svatopluk I held the empire together, sometimes employing the Hungarians in battles against East Francia. Pope John VIII recognized Great Moravia ecclesiastically in 880, appointing Archbishop Methodius as its head, with German cleric Wiching becoming the Bishop of Nitra. Post-Svatopluk I's demise in 894, his sons Momir II and Svatopluk II assumed rulership, but their discord and ongoing hostilities with Eastern Francia weakened Great Moravia, causing loss of peripheral territories. By 896, Hungarian tribes, dislodged by the Pechenegs, invaded the Pannonian Basin, gradually occupying the territory. Their military advances were possibly aided by the regional strife, as local rulers often enlisted them for military support. It is believed that both Momir II and Svatopluk II perished in battles with the Hungarians between 904 and 907, marking the decline of Great Moravia, particularly after the decisive Hungarian victory near present-day Bratislava in 907, which traditionally marks the fall of Great Moravia. The legacy of Great Moravia endures, particularly through the dissemination of the Glagolitic and Cyrillic scripts to other Slavic regions, enriching their cultural milieu. Moreover, the administrative framework of Great Moravia might have contributed to shaping the administrative structure of the subsequent Kingdom of Hungary. High Middle Ages. In the late 9th and early 10th century, Hungarians, Magyars, began settling in the Pannonian Basin, notably affecting the region of present-day Slovakia. Initially, they coexisted with the Slavic populations, gradually transitioning from their nomadic lifestyle and forming settlements, with significant migration recorded between 930 and 940. By the 11th century, the distinctions between Slavic and Magyar graves diminished, indicating a closer integration of these communities. The region further evolved during the reign of Grand Prince Geza and his successor, Stephen, who became the first king of Hungary in 1000 or 1001. The Kingdom of Hungary, building partially on the former Great Moravian state organization, established multiple counties within present-day Slovakia and underwent various territorial disputes with neighboring Poland. This pattern of political and territorial evolution continued through the early 13th century until the Mongol invasion in 1241 severely devastated the region. The aftermath of the invasion saw the construction of fortified stone castles and increased military engagements with neighboring regions like Austria, reflecting a turbulent but significant period in the region's history. In the era spanning the 11th to 13th centuries, the administrative structure of the territory, now Slovakia, underwent significant development under royal tutelage. New counties emerged or existing ones expanded northward towards present-day regions like Bratislava, Trenčín, Žemur Malahant, and Novorod. Akin to the foundation of forest counties around Zvolen and Saris Castle, the royal authority morphed gradually, marked by King Koloman's establishment of a third bishopric within Slovakia. Before the calamitous Mongol invasion, towns like Trnava, Stary Tekov, Zvolen, and Krupina were already accorded distinct privileges. Post-invasion, under King Bela IV's reign, fortifications like Komarno and Bekov were either built or reinforced, signifying an early epoch of urban development. Alongside, a network of castles sprang up to act as bulwarks and catalyze economic activities, with urban settlements playing dual roles of economic hubs and defensive bastions. The mineral-rich terrain of Slovakia gave rise to a burgeoning mining industry. Kings bestowed privileges on thriving settlements, nurturing urbanization and commerce. Earliest charters were granted to towns like Spišské Valachi, Košice, and Nitra, among others. The influx of Germans, known as the German guests, introduced a suite of advancements in terms of production, management, legal systems, and culture, particularly in the urban and mining areas, facilitating a profound economic and cultural transition. As per records, the Middle Ages saw Slovakia as one of the urbanized domains within the Kingdom of Hungary, hosting 6 of the 10 paramount towns according to King Vladislaus II Jagiello's decree. The mining towns like Kremnica, Banska Stavnica, and Banska Bystrica significantly augmented the kingdom's economy. Unions and associations amongst towns emerged to safeguard their shared interests, further corroborating a sense of communal identity and self-governance. However, the late 13th century brought in internal royal and aristocratic discord, leading to the rise of oligarchs like Ahmadi Abba and Matthew III Sack, who controlled vast tracts, including many castles in Slovakia. Their reigns, albeit somewhat autonomously, intertwined with the broader political tableau of the Kingdom of Hungary, marked by constant wrangling for royal legitimacy. The era post the oligarchs saw King Charles I reasserting centralized royal authority, bolstering trade through agreements with neighboring realms. Towns continued to gain privileges, underlining a continuous trend of urbanization and self-administration. The evolving socio-political framework during these centuries formed a crucible in which the administrative, economic, and cultural foundations of modern Slovakia were laid, mirroring a larger historical narrative of medieval Europe. The modern era. In the early modern period, the regions now forming Slovakia were principally under the administrative realms of the Habsburg and Ottoman empires. The Ottoman Empire's conquest led to a division of the Kingdom of Hungary, with several Ottoman provinces established, while a significant part including present-day Slovakia, resisted Ottoman rule, becoming a province under the Habsburg monarchy, often referred to as Royal Hungary. The Long Turkish War, 1593-1606, saw a significant shift in control with Ferdinand I of Austria becoming King of Habsburg Hungary. Following the Ottomans' conquest of Buda in 1541, Pressburg, modern-day Bratislava, emerged as the capital of Habsburg Hungary until 1784-1848, witnessing the coronation of 19 Habsburg sovereigns. This region bore the brunt of the Turkish wars, causing widespread loss of life, property, and natural resources. In this time, certain territories of Slovakia were incorporated into Ottoman provinces like Budin Ile, Egri Ile, and Ivar Ile. In the late 17th century, Ottoman authority extended to the eastern part of Habsburg Hungary, establishing a vassal Ottoman principality under Prince Imre Thököly. Following the Ottomans' expulsion from Budin, later Budapest, in 1686, it regained its status as the Habsburg Hungarian capital. Despite centuries of multi-empire administration, Slovaks preserved their language and culture. Into the late modern period, the 18th century marked the dawn of the Slovak national movement, seeking to foster Slovak national identity, albeit divided along confessional lines. The movement was notably curtailed following the Hungarian Revolution of 1848, where Slovak nationalists sided with Austrians, seeking autonomy within the Austrian Empire. Despite their attempts, Slovak troops were disbanded, but the subsequent political oppression of the Hungarian elite by Austrian authorities allowed Slovak political elites to further their national goals. The Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867 brought a constitutional transformation into a dual monarchy, with present-day Slovakia falling under Hungarian control, facing distrust and suppression due to their pan-Slavism and separatism. The turn of the century witnessed growing democratization, albeit with a mere 5% suffrage rate in the Kingdom of Hungary. The Slovak political spectrum fragmented into various factions, each seeking favorable international relations to further Slovak interests. Despite repressive measures, the Slovak electoral success in 1906 marked a significant achievement. However, Magyarization reached its pinnacle with the introduction of the Apony Act, enforcing Hungarian language education, supported by local Hungarian educational societies. The ethnic tension escalated dramatically with the Černova tragedy, where 15 Slovaks were killed during a riot, further fueling Slovak resistance to Hungarian rule. Before World War I, Archduke Franz Ferdinand's federalization plan, crafted with Slovak journalist and politician Milan Hoxha, aimed to grant Slovak autonomy within Austria-Hungary, but was abandoned following his assassination, which precipitated the onset of the Great War. This elaborate historical journey exemplifies the deeply intertwined and complex relations among the Ottomans, Habsburgs, and emerging Slovak nationalistic aspirations against the backdrop of broader European political machinations. Czechoslovakia. Following the onset of World War I, the Slovak cause for independence gained traction, with increasing resolve to break away from the dual monarchy and establish a republic alongside the Czechs. The momentum for this decision mainly originated from individuals of Slovak descent residing in foreign nations, particularly the substantial Slovak community in the United States, which formed significant organizations advocating for a Czechoslovak republic. Other supportive entities emerged in Russia and neutral countries. A key figure during this period was Milan Rastislav Stefanik, a French citizen of Slovak origin, who, serving as a French general and a leading representative of the Czechoslovak National Council based in Paris, made crucial contributions towards the Czechoslovak cause. Political leaders within Slovakia, despite initial hesitations, gradually supported the activities spearheaded by Masaryk, Benes, and Stefanik. However, the Hungarian authorities escalated their harassment of Slovaks during the war, impeding the nationalist campaign within Slovak territories. Nonetheless, information about efforts to establish a Czech-Slovak state reached Slovakia and was well received. During the turbulent final year of World War I, sporadic protests occurred in Slovakia, with politicians convening a clandestine meeting at Lipto St. Miklos, Liptovský Mikuláš on 1 May 1918. With the World War I ending, the dissolution of Austria-Hungary followed. On 28 October 1918, the Prague National Committee declared the establishment of an independent Czechoslovakia. The Slovak National Council at Martin assented to this proclamation 2 days later. The newly formed republic comprised the Czech lands, Bohemia and Moravia, a small portion of Silesia, Slovakia, and Subcarpathian Ruthenia, with its capital in Prague. In the ensuing counter-attack by the Hungarian Red Army during May and June of 1919, Czech forces were expelled from central and eastern parts of contemporary Slovakia, leading to the brief establishment of a Slovak Soviet Republic with its capital in Prešov. However, the offensive ceased, and Hungarian troops withdrew following diplomatic interventions by the Entente. The Treaty of Trianon, signed in 1920 at the Paris Peace Conference, delineated the southern border of Czechoslovakia, incorporating certain Hungarian populated areas into the new state for strategic and economic reasons. The interwar period saw attempts to industrialize Slovakia by the Czechoslovak government, but these initiatives largely faltered, exacerbated by the Great Depression. Discontent among Slovaks grew, spurred by perceived economic and political dominance by the Czechs, leading to escalating calls for greater Slovak autonomy, spearheaded by figures like Father Andrej Hlinka and Josef Tiso. The political landscape further shifted in 1938 with the Munich Agreement, wherein Czechoslovakia, under pressure from France, Italy, the United Kingdom, and Nazi Germany, ceded the Sudetenland to Germany. The subsequent First Vienna Award in November forced Czechoslovakia to relinquish southern Slovakia to Hungary. On 14 March 1939, Slovakia declared independence, establishing the Slovak Republic, albeit under significant Nazi German influence, with Josef Tiso as its prime minister and later president. The following day, Nazi Germany invaded the remaining parts of Bohemia, Moravia, and Silesia, establishing the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. Concurrently, Carpatho-Ukraine declared independence, only to be swiftly invaded and annexed by Hungary, which then also occupied additional disputed territories in present-day eastern Slovakia, triggering the short-lived Slovak-Hungarian War. World War II. During the early years of World War II, the Slovak Republic, as an Axis ally, participated in wars against Poland and the Soviet Union. Though its contribution was more symbolic to the German war effort, The number of troops involved, about 45,000 in the Soviet campaign, was significant relative to its population of 2.6 million in 1940. Shortly after gaining independence, the authoritarian government under Joseph Tiso initiated anti-Semitic measures against the 90,000 Jews residing in the country. The Hlinka Guard commenced attacks on Jews, and in September 1941, the Jewish Code, resembling the Nuremberg laws, was passed. This legislation mandated Jews to wear a yellow armband, forbade intermarriage, and excluded them from many occupations, leaving over 64,000 Jews jobless. Between March and October 1942, about 57,000 Jews were deported to German-occupied Poland, where most were killed in extermination camps. Though deportation ceased when the Slovak government resolved the social issues caused by its policy, post the Slovak national uprising in 1944, German forces occupying Slovakia deported an additional 12,600 Jews, half of whom were killed in concentration camps. Others were massacred within the country by Slovak collaborators under German command. On the 29th of August 1944, the Slovak national uprising, led by 60,000 Slovak troops and 18,000 partisans organized by underground groups and the Czechoslovak government in exile, rose against the Nazis. Though the insurrection was subdued by a fierce German counter-offensive, it established an important historical reference, helping Slovakia to end the war as a contributor to the Allied victory. As 1944 progressed, Soviet and Romanian forces gradually expelled the German army from Slovak territory, with Soviet troops entering Bratislava on 4 April 1945. Post-World War II, the victorious powers reinstated Czechoslovakia, albeit without Carpathian Ruthenia, ceded to the Soviet Union. The war-induced Beneš decrees led to the disenfranchisement and persecution of the Hungarian minority in southern Slovakia, and expulsion of the local German minority. Elections held in 1946 saw the Democratic Party winning in Slovakia, but the Communist Party secured power in 1948, turning the country into a Soviet satellite state. The era of communist control was briefly interrupted during the Prague Spring of 1968 when Alexander Dubček, a Slovak, aimed for socialism with a human face, prompting a Warsaw Pact invasion that reinstated conservative rule under another Slovak, Gustav Husák. During the ensuing normalization period till 1990, political, social, and economic life stagnated, with Slovakia faring better due to less harsh implementation and comparatively higher economic growth. Dissident movements emerged, particularly in the Czech Republic, with over 250 human rights activists signing the Charter 77 Manifesto in 1977. The Velvet Revolution in November 1989 led to the collapse of communist rule. By June 1990, the first free elections since 1948 were held, but by 1992, negotiations on a new federal constitution deadlocked over Slovak autonomy, leading to the peaceful dissolution of Czechoslovakia on 1 January 1993 into the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. Following the Velvet Revolution, various political groups coalesced into the Civic Forum in the Czech Republic and Public Against Violence in Slovakia, championing bureaucratic reform and civil liberties. Contemporary Slovakia. Post its independence from Czechoslovakia in 1993, Slovakia embarked on a multifaceted political journey. Initially led by Vladimir Mečiar's movement for a democratic Slovakia, the country briefly saw a reformist government in 1994, before returning to Mečiar's rule. Michal Kovács, the first president, aspired to model Slovakia on Switzerland, an ambition partially realized through economic reforms under Prime Minister Mikuláš Dzurinda's tenure, which facilitated Slovakia's entry into the OECD and propelled it closer to NATO and EU membership. Slovakia officially joined NATO and the EU in 2004, marking a significant milestone. Subsequent elections brought various coalitions to power, each with different takes on domestic and international issues such as the EU's stance on the Russian military intervention in Ukraine and the European migrant crisis. Amidst growing public discontent, a significant event occurred in 2018 when Prime Minister Robert Fico resigned following mass protests triggered by the murder of investigative journalist Jan Kuciak, leading to Peter Pellegrini's appointment as Prime Minister. In 2019, the election of Zuzana Čaputová as the first female president of Slovakia signified a progressive step, though the political landscape continued to fluctuate with the rise of new parties and coalitions. By 2023, Amidst a change in leadership with Eduard Heger resigning and Ludovic Oder assuming the position of caretaker prime minister, Slovakia's political narrative continues to evolve, reflecting a blend of domestic challenges and efforts to align with broader European agendas. As we delve into the end of this episode and video, I would like to extend a hearty invitation to all our viewers to subscribe to my channel for more enriching discussions and explorations. Your support has been monumental, and it's a privilege to have you accompany us on this enlightening journey. Thank you immensely for watching the whole episode, and your engagement is what propels us to delve deeper and bring more content your way. Until our next episode, stay curious, stay informed, and we look forward to embarking on yet another insightful journey with you. Until then, take care and goodbye.